You're watching Sports Shorts Daily, presented by LeBear's Casino and Hotel in Baton Rouge and the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame Museum in Natchitoches. You can follow Sports Shorts Daily by going to our YouTube page, Sports Shorts, hosted by Ronnie Rantz, and get our 15-minute weekday video. Welcome, everybody, to today's edition of Sports Shorts Daily, presented by LeBear's Casino. Ronnie Rantz being joined by longtime Baton Rouge broadcaster from WAFB, Jacques Doucet, joining us. JD, how are you, my friend?
Ronnie, I'm doing great, man. Happy with you on this YouTube format today.
Yeah, we've done it a lot of. We've been in radio remotes, we've been on the phone, we've been in studio. Now we're doing it virtually, so we're checking that box. Look, LSU football, what a crazy week. First couple of weeks it's been. You had the huge upset against Mississippi State where, it was just one of the most horrible losses really in Tiger Stadium history. Then you go handle your business at Vanderbilt in front of 1,000 students. And now we're faced with dealing with hurricane possibilities and consequences. What can go wrong in 2020, right?
Yeah, Ronnie, it's one of those years where we've been kind of hard to get fully invested and fully excited about what we're witnessing. On one hand, you want to say we should be thankful that they're playing football at all. We should be thankful that, on the weekend we have LSU football and the Saints to look forward to. On the other hand, without tailgating, without the crowds, without the students, without LSU's band marching onto the field before the game, it's not hitting you in the heart like it normally would. There's so much stuff out there right now, so much divisiveness with politics and this virus and so many other things. But yeah, the first game of the year, I think Mike Leach, it was a perfect storm. Pardon the pun for him. Tiger Stadium was neutralized, no crowd. If he had one person to pick on the LSU defense to say, hey, I want him out of the game, he would pick Derek Stingley, right? And so that was a big loss for LSU. And then LSU playing some defensive backs that really, Darren Evans, I want that to be a great story. The kid from Glen Oaks returns, goes to Nicholls State, is playing for LSU, but, he had his problems, and the whole secondary had their problems. And certainly Bo Pelini, LSU's new defensive coordinator, back to the future, returning. He got criticized, for not making any adjustments. Michael Leach, after the game, said he expected LSU to play us looser, and they were tight on us all day. So we just decided to go over the top, and that's what we did. So, Myles Brennan and company, I think LSU punted the first 4 times they had the ball against State. I think they gained 26 yards on their first 15 plays. And so the LSU offense, very sporadic in the first game, hit and miss. The second game against Vanderbilt, obviously LSU improved across the board. Can't complain. All you can do is beat the team in front of you, which LSU did soundly, but you and I know that LSU's never going to get overly excited about beating Vanderbilt. So we'll see. Hopefully LSU can play this game against Missouri, whether it's here in Baton Rouge or Columbia. And then obviously a huge trip to Florida coming up.
How surprised were you that the first game of the year, LSU only had like 20,000 fans in the stands? You're talking about a stadium that you would have had close to 100 for the opening game. And instead, you were well below the allotted amount of tickets. You could have had 26 and change or whatever. Instead, you only had 20.
Yeah, 20,000. I think it's distributed to the game. The talk on the street was it looked a lot less than that. Certainly I was there when LSU played that game against South Carolina. They got moved in 2015. I think they said there were 42,000 people there. And if that's the case, then you and I are the Pope, right? I mean, right. It was nowhere close. So, it's just a lot of people opted out, Ronnie, because they quite frankly said, I don't want to be part of what they call a neutered Tiger Stadium. They go there to feel the electricity of being, elbow to elbow with 100,000 people and the crowd and everything. And I mean, I think LSU has done a remarkable job doing what they can with the circumstances they're presented at the same time. It's just, it's not the same. I could not believe, Ronnie, when I drove by Tiger Stadium, we did Sportsline, and I drove home the night before the game, and I just went straight down Nicholson Drive, left looking around. It was like it could have been July. It could have been there was no sign outside of the television trucks outside of Tiger Stadium that LSU was playing a football game the next day. It was very eerie.
Well, they're playing Missouri on Saturday, and at the moment, the game is being played in Tiger Stadium. So the question I have is, will you think there'll be more fans than there were last time or less? 8 o'clock start versus 2:30, more of a nighttime feel in Tiger Stadium. You still got all the restrictions, although you can drink. Alcohol will be allowed this weekend. Does that make a factor, and will there be more fans for this second game after LSU's big win?
Well, Ronnie, parents were factored in their season ticket holders, and believe me, they weren't disappointed when they didn't have to do the CDC wellness check this week. You get people in their 70s and whatnot, and they got to do stuff on their phone and download tickets on their phone and do stuff like this. Is stuff they're not used to, So I think people have gotten used to that for the most part, but I think the 8 o'clock kickoff definitely, I think, scares people away who have small kids, who fall asleep and stuff like that. Now, certainly there's no traffic to deal with, right? So no one should be leaving early. That's the one problem. We got in and out of that stadium in no time. But, 8 o'clock at night, a game that could go till 11:30 or so with barely anybody in the stands. It's just, it's very, very different. And Coach O has said it himself, you look at the video, Ronnie, last year when LSU would come down Victory Hill before these games, especially the Texas A&M game, Joe Burrow's last game, just people as far as the eye can see, 30,000 people out there gathering for just the Tiger Walk alone. And so, and I'm not saying this because LSU lost their first game. I think this college football season just got a big asterisk next to it.
Mm-hmm.
No matter who wins the national championship, hopefully we can make it to a playoff. What's the bowl system going to look like, Ronnie? I mean, these bowl games have a hard time selling tickets as it is.
Right.
How do these bowls just not lose a ton of money, or do they just say, yeah, we're just going to lose a ton of money so we can play the game?
And last year the Sugar Bowl not being a factor, it not being a relevant bowl in the playoff picture. I mean, those tickets they were giving tickets away for the Sugar Bowl, and that used to be a game that you would easily get 60,000 plus, no matter who's playing in New Orleans, and they had under 30,000. It looked like the New Orleans Bowl, not the Sugar Bowl last year. LSU football so far this season, Myles Brennan, 300 yards passing, both of the first two games he's played, multiple touchdowns, both of the first two games he's played, but yet still been criticized. My question to you is Myles Brennan better than we expected, or about what you expected, or worse?
On one hand, he's only started 2 games in his entire career. The other argument is this is his 4th year here. He should be better. Now, look, like you said, 345 in the first game, 337 in the second game. Now, granted, I think in the first game, it was definitely more spotty. It was, a couple of chunks down the field here and there that LSU hit on, but they struggled to consistently keep drives going. I was at the game in Nashville, and I thought Myles Brennan looked great in the game this past weekend. They put an emphasis on him staying in the pocket. I'm going to try not to compare him to Joe Burrow as much as I can.
Yeah.
But, when Joe Burrow, when he scrambled, good things happen. He would run for a first down. He'd throw on the run. Throwing on the run and moving is not Myles Brennan's thing, I don't think. I think he's got to stay in the pocket. His arm is fantastic. I thought the passes he threw some bullets down the field. The 2 touchdowns he threw to Terrence Marshall were brilliant. He had one to Jeray Jenkins across the middle for 22 yards where he just zipped it right in there. So, there was a couple of erratic throws. He had the high throw that was picked off. But I thought he did about as good as he could do this past weekend. I think he was definitely helped out by the running game. John Emery looked fantastic. He looked explosive. And but once again, it was Vanderbilt. So, we'll see moving forward. But I think Myles has a tough act to follow. If I was Myles Brennan, I would not get on Twitter. I would not get on Facebook. I'd just be the best guy I can be, right?
Right.
And certainly, Ronnie, before Joe Burrow, how many 300-yard passing games did LSU have? I think Danny Etling had 2 against Texas A&M. And, before that, I think Brandon Harris had 1 at Ole Miss when LSU got blown out, and they were just throwing. So it hasn't happened very often for sure.
Well, and the other thing too is that I think Myles Brennan is probably about what we expected and hoped for. And think about this: when Joe Burrow came his junior year, now granted, we know the offense was different and all that, but like he didn't set the world on fire. He had a big roller coaster of a year. I mean, heck, in the Auburn game that they won on the road, he didn't really play well for 3.5 quarters. So, I think people have to realize we think Joe Burrow was always just as great as he was last year. It took him time. And so Myles Brennan through his first 2 games in his 4th year in college is better than Joe Burrow's first 2 games in his 4th year in college. It's just that unfortunately you're following the greatest season in history. Myles Brennan, Jacques, and you'll like this analogy, may be the Smoke Laval of LSU football. Following the legend of Skip Bertman. Smoke Laval was pretty good. Second all times in wins in the SEC during the 5 years. 1 game behind Ray Tanner at South Carolina. Went to Omaha twice. Got fired. That would have been pretty good most other places. Really good most other places. Unfortunately, you're being compared to the greatest to ever do it, and that's Skip and Joe Burrow.
Yeah. We don't grow up losing coaches at LSU and LSU baseball. And I said, well, the guy won almost 70% of his games. He had the highest winning percentage at the time. They went to Omaha twice, but unfortunately went 0-4 in their trips and never won a game there. I thought you were going to say he was the Sammy Hagar following up David Lee Roth. I thought that's where you were going to go. I would take Sammy Hagar if Myles Brennan lives up to that success. But yeah, it's just tough. I mean, the first Heisman Trophy winner in 50 years, Ronnie. I mean, a superstar. Just he is Joe Burrow at 23 or whatever he is a living icon as we speak.
By the way, Sammy Hagar, not the first pick. Lead singer of Mr. Mister was offered the job. What do you know his name, by the way?
Eric Martin. Yeah.
Is that it? Canadian, right? Good-looking dude from Canada. Had a couple hits with Mr. Mister. He was offered the job after David Lee Roth.
Mr. Mister, but I thought you said Mr. Big.
No. The lead singer for Mr. Mister. I remember reading that years ago. He was actually offered the gig, turned it down, and stayed with Mr. Mister, and they never had another hit. And Sammy Hagar took the gig. So.
I've also heard, and not to drive your show in the ditch, but Patty Smythe apparently also offered the gig of Scandal. I can't really see a woman singing in Van Halen. And I saw an interview that Sammy did with Daryl Hall of Hall & Oates where he said he even got a phone call perhaps to sing in that. Anyway.
Wow. Well, they really hated David Lee Roth, didn't they? I mean, they were just offering anybody the job. All right, let me get your take on which running back should LSU feature. I mean, we've kind of seen this was the Emory show. Obviously, Curry didn't play this last game, but we've seen what Curry could do last December. And first game, you got David Price as well, who's last year probably looked like the best freshman running back. So of the 3, is there one that should be featured?
I'm certainly not I feel like John Emory should be fed the ball 20 times a game. Now, Coach O, when he met with us yesterday, said that he still views all the running backs as the same. I would like in the next couple of weeks to wonder if actions speak louder than words. We'll see what actually happens in the game plan. Certainly, Tyrion Davis-Price gives LSU some power between the tackles. The huge run he had last year against Florida. He scored 7 touchdowns last year. Chris Curry, great guy, hard worker, tremendous worker. I talked to his high school coaches this past summer. They told me on his signing day, most people go to a party. He went straight to the weight room when he signed with LSU. So obviously he got one of the number 18 jerseys. I think highly of him. But I just wonder at some point, Ronnie, when it's hard to keep everybody happy, right? And then does it take a guy 10 carries to get warm and bust one, And so John Emory has looked the best of the 3, I think, so far. Certainly, he always looked like he's a step away from breaking it. So we'll see who actually starts the game this past week and how they divvy up the carries. But Coach O yesterday says that he likes all 3 and he's going to continue to play all 3. Chris Curry, interesting situation. I was there. I saw him get off the bus and walk right in. Looked fine to me, but didn't play and was said to have an injury.
Well, yeah, that to me reads of a guy who got in trouble and they're just protecting him. Whether he missed a class or was late for a meeting or whatever the case may be. That to me sounds like what that's all about. Let me ask you this also: when it comes to when it comes to LSU moving forward, we talked, I think the running back position is going to be a three-way monster. I agree with you. I think it's going to be a three-headed monster. I think Coach is being honest when he says they're going to feature all of them. I mean, they're all too good. They all bring something different to the table. Through the beginning of the season, wide receiver wise, anybody surprise you, disappoint you, whether it's Gilbert at tight end? I mean, who's been the standout in a good or a bad way for you early on?
Ronnie, I'm proud of the former Gina Giant. Certainly in the preseason when we talked about the wide receivers, he was a name that just didn't come up that much. And last year caught a total of 5 passes the whole year and caught them all in the Northwestern State game. Again, in a blowout, in the second half. He catches 5 passes in the season opener against Mississippi State, including a 47-yarder, and then caught a few this past weekend as well. Dropped one, but that's nitpicking. It was a first down. I've always been rooting for Jontre Kirkland. I think Jontre Kirkland is a great team guy. I think if you watch Ronnie LSU last year, every celebration video they had, every time. Right. But Jontre Kirkland's right in the middle of it, dancing and having a good time, and people seem to love him. In his first 3 years at LSU, primarily special teams, caught a total of 3 passes. So the other night, his patience pays off. 3 catches, 65 yards, 2 touchdowns against Vanderbilt. Great to see that. Eric or Arik or whatever we're going to call him, Gilbert. I talked to Chris Blair about that. I mean, if you go to LSUsports.net, you click on his name, it says Eric, but
right.
It may be Arik. But anyway, I think more yards after the catch. It seems like he's getting tackled when he catches the ball. Maybe he'll start to break them a little bit, but certainly for a true freshman, I heard Verge Osbury do an interview that said he came on campus this past summer and people ask him, hey, what pro team does he play for? Yeah, 6'5", 250 or whatever. Rayson McMath is not getting involved as much as I thought he was going to through 2 games. Certainly he was thought to be the number 2 wide receiver behind Terrence Marshall, made some big plays last year. He hasn't caught a ton of passes. I don't know if that's why, but hadn't been that involved. And then Terrence Marshall obviously is a pro. He caught 4 touchdowns in 2 games so far. So he's been
and dropped a couple. He could have even bigger numbers. Yeah.
Yeah. He had a quick slant across the middle against Mississippi State. He dropped. I think he would have scored on that.
Let me ask you this last question. What's the latest? What are the alternatives? What are you thinking? I mean, you got Jay Grimes over there grinding in the WAFB studio in the weather. What's your thought on this Saturday's game? It's 8:00 in Tiger Stadium. Do we think the Hurricane will be past this to where they'll play, or they'll move it to Missouri, in your opinion?
Well, I can guarantee we'll be doing this show live coming up over the next hours. I mean, the latest I thought I saw was that it was going to make landfall like 7 a.m., 8 a.m. Friday morning. The thing is slowing down from what I heard this morning, which is not good. I know a lot of local high school football games have been moved up to Wednesday.
Right.
Beat the storm. LSU put out a statement that they're monitoring the storm. I think when LSU and South Carolina had that game, I think that decision was made on a Thursday to move it to Baton Rouge. And so I think it's easier, Ronnie, in the pandemic to move the game from the aspect that there's not going to be any fans there. They're not
right.
About security and a lot of different things, concessions. There were no concessions at Vanderbilt, by the way, this past weekend, which Gordy Rush pointed out. But I hope it's not moved. But it's funny, Ronnie. Out of all the teams LSU has visited, Mississippi State joined this league in 2012, and LSU has still not played at Columbia. So this might be just a crazy trip up there. But
well, if they do play in Columbia, you'll be the only one from Louisiana going. That's not on the LSU team, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I've already Googled it. 10 and a half hours to get there. I think we drove through one time on the way to Omaha for the World Series, but.
Jacques, thanks for joining us here on Sports Shorts Daily, presented by LeBear's Casino. Appreciate it very much. I know you're gonna have a busy week with WAFB. Got all the high school coverage. I know I'll be doing on CST Episcopal Pope John Paul Lamar, and then Thursday Parkview Baptist at home. So should be a pretty good one. Tell the folks where they can follow you, of course, on social media.
At Jacques Doucet and WAP.com and on my Jacques Doucet Facebook page as well. And by the way, congratulations to the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame. looking at your class that you got coming in this year, I'd pay money as a media person to go see Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf, Chris Jackson, and the amazing class that you've got going in this year.
Well, I'm going to hold you to that. You got the company credit card. We'll have you buy a couple tickets with it. But you're a golfer, and you see scrolling across the screen, we got our Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame Celebrity Golf Classic coming up October 19th at the University Club Golf Course here in Baton Rouge. Jacques will not be one of the celebrity golfers. Sorry to inform you on social media, but Jacques, a pretty good golfer now. He's going to shoot between 90 and 100, depending on the course. And he's a scooper like me, so we hit it high in the air. But this is perfect golf weather, and I hope you get out there soon, Jacques, to play.
No doubt. The weather's been spectacular. This whole year has been kind of, you know what, but the spring we had and the fall we're having, the weather's been great. So.
All right, appreciate it. This is Sports Shorts Daily, joined today by Jacques Doucet of WAFB in Baton Rouge. Check us out Monday through Friday. Follow us on Facebook on Sports Shorts, and go to our YouTube page, Sports Shorts, hosted by Ronnie Rantz. Have a great day, everybody.
Thanks for watching Sports Shorts Daily, presented by LeBear's Casino and Hotel in Baton Rouge and the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame Museum in Natchitoches. Don't forget to follow Sports Shorts on Facebook, Twitter at sports_shorts, and check us out on Saturday mornings from 10 to noon at Sports Shorts Radio on 104.5, 104.9 ESPN Radio in Baton Rouge.